like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee.
Let's do it, man.
Hey, we're live, and Paul's looking down. I didn't even look to see what he was doing, but he was looking
Getting
down.
my coffee.
He's getting his. Oh, I look at that cup. It's a nice looking cup. I like Fats behind you.
Yeah,
Fats in the Beatles. Fats in the Beatles
Yep.
behind you. Nice.
Both of them autographed. Thank you very much.
You know, my doctor used to tell this story. He loved it. Like my pediatrician when I was a kid, he would tell me about how when the Beatles came to town at City Park, whatever year that was it 67 or something? Paul was sick.
60. It was before 67. It's like 63 or 64.
Oh, wow, that is early. All right. I've got a T-shirt that somebody gave me with the Beatles at City Park, whatever. Somebody, I'll have to look.
Nice.
Yeah, but anyway, Paul was sick and he had a sore throat and he got treated by the doctor, and that's my doctor loved the fact that he treated Paul McCartney. You know, he was always
That's
like,
pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I was happy for him.
Well, you know, they had rooms booked at the Fairmont, but then the Fairmont found out who they were and that there was going to be mobs of girls and all that kind of stuff, so they wouldn't let them check in, and they wound up checking in New Orleans East on the highway that goes out to the east. There used to be a place out near Little Woods, Little Farms, called the Congress Inn. It was there for years. You must have passed it plenty of times. It was an old rundown-looking '60s hotel, and that was the only hotel they could get because they didn't think anybody would go out to the swamps to chase them.
That's too funny. I wonder. So apparently they weren't crazy about their time here in New Orleans. They got stuck doing.
Well, they wouldn't. You know, they couldn't stay at the hotel. That's a bad start.
Yeah, that is a bad start. So if you show up a town and the hotel people tell you the Cowboy Mouth's just too crazy, you know, too big, you got quite a reputation, you can't stay here.
Yeah, we would have not taken it as well as they did.
You would have just climbed back on the bus and just been like, well, fuck it, let's just go wherever. I don't care.
Yeah, I know. I rarely slept in hotels anyway. I slept in my bunk.
Yeah, I mean, you guys just used to get hotels just to shower anyway at that point, but
Yeah. Well, you know.
but remember the van tours though. The van tours were different, right? That was like
That was brutal. You know, I look back on those days, like even before we had like the 15 passenger van, we just had we had a Fred's Nissan minivan, and so we had to push the back seats all the way forward, so you were sitting pretty much straight up to fit all the equipment in, the drums and the amps and stuff. And Fred was terrified of cops, even though he didn't, you know, never drank while he drove. He never did drugs ever. He had no reason to be paranoid of cops, but every time he saw cops, he would hit the brakes. And the amps, the speaker heads, you know, the amp heads would fly forward, hit Griffin and I in the back of the head. We're like, fuck, Fred, he's on the brake for fuck's sake, you know?
it's just a cop.
And then we would be like staying we could only afford one room, you know, so it would be two guys sleeping on the floor, two guys would get the beds. And I remember sleeping between Fred and Griff, and they were both just the worst snores in the world. Just Fred snores like a freight train coming down the street with rattly wheels, and Griff's like the muffler of a muscle car. And I'm sleeping between them on the floor, and I'm just like, I'm lying there, and I'm just hating them both. I can't sleep a wink, and they're just hacking, sawing away. And I would sit up really quick, and I'd reach over, and I'd punch them both in the chest, and I'd lay back down real quick. And then they jump up and they go, what, huh, what? And then they go back to sleep and eventually start snoring again. But I was hoping it'd be like a good minute or two that would give me enough time to get some sleep before they started, you know, running
to
the
get
freight
back
train
to
again.
sleep. Yeah, you were one of those ones who couldn't deal with the snoring, right?
Yeah,
luckily,
I hated snoring.
The snoring didn't give me a hard time, luckily, because being around oh my god. Well, you know who can wake you up? Eddie Ecker could wake me up with his snoring. My God.
He's quite the snorer.
Yeah, man. It was like a lawnmower is in the room. I mean, it really is like somebody turned.
Well,
the
he's
lawnmower.
got a prominent proboscis. You know, that's quite a nose. He balances on the edge of that little head of his.
Yeah, that's true. Me and Skeet were fine together. It was usually just me and Skeet, and people accepted that you know me and Skeet would be off doing our thing, and thank goodness.
Right.
He was like one of the best guys to be in a band with because like we totally agreed about just about everything. You know, for the most part, we We agreed about everything, or we could deal with each other and whatever our shenanigans or shit was. We could easily, you know, it was like having a brother. You know, it was.
That's what band's supposed to be like.
Yeah.
That was like it was with Griff,
Right.
with Cowboy, then with the Lonesome Travelers. He very much believes in that kind of concept, and so did I.
Right.
Originally, Cowboy Mouth did too. It just evolved away from that.
I was with you guys when you were still part of the lovey-dovey thing. You know, when everybody was still in it together. It was hard times, and I think that's part of the. I mean, you don't realize those when you're in the middle of those hard times, and everybody's going through the fucking hard times. Then there's a camaraderie that sort of happens, because everybody's in the same boat. But eventually, when you're in a band,
well, when you start getting popular, then,
right.
Then the wives and girlfriends are whispering in each other's ears, and the record companies whispering this, and the managers whispering that, and a lot of lies and innuendos, and you know what they say: love flies out the door when money comes innuendo.
You remember reading the stories about the Beatles though? In the middle of that, I mean, they didn't trust anybody, and while they were on tour. But then when they got back home is when everything fell apart. When they got off tour and they started separating. But when they were on tour together, I remember the engineer Emmerich was talking about like during Rubber Soul and Revolver when they popped in to record the tracks for that thing. It was the four guys and the tour manager, and they were thick as thieves. But I mean, everybody else was an outsider. Like even Jeff, who they
in the early days, it was very much like that. It was very much, because you don't have much, and it's us against the world kind of mentality.
Right.
And I thought it was a great band in the early days. I thought that
you guys
we
were
support each other
next level, yeah. At the beginning of the thing, I mean, it was really,
and then
nobody had seen anything like what you guys were doing. You were like a revival. It was really it was fun to be there during that time, Because
it was fun. I saw a film of it recently, and it was it's good times.
It's a good time, But,
and then it just
10 years into it, though, it starts to become a drag. It starts to become the same old fucking thing.
Well, 10 years in, there were managers and major labels making demands, and
right.
It's just not. It's not a band anymore. It becomes a brand when you stop listening to
a brand, right?
When it's not the four band, like when we were Hootie and Hootie and the Blowfish and Cowboy Mouse started out around the same time. They were playing frat houses up in the Carolinas. We were playing them down here. They're playing the bigger clubs in the Carolinas. We're playing them down here. We're trading gigs with them as we're climbing the pop ladder. And then they blast off, And as big as they ever got, and no matter how tense the moment might be, they would go into their room with just the four of them and their tour manager and their manager, if he was out on the road, and they would talk. And when they came out, they were a united front. Nobody badmouthed the other guy. I don't know if it got settled that night. I know that every time they faced the public, including their crew and the bands that were playing with them, they were a united front as a band. They were Hootie and the Blowfish as a band. There was no fuck those guys.
But eventually they got to the
which
fuck those guys.
Definitely had.
Well, they eventually got to the fuck those guys part too. Right. That's my point. It's like, it's inevitable, right? At some point, it's enough. And, it took them a while to get there.
You're only as strong as, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And if being in the band starts out as a really fun adventure and playing some really, energizing shows, and then it becomes something that's not fun anymore, or less fun, or more
a job. It becomes
a
job at some point where you have to be there, and you don't.
It didn't have to. The record company really changed that. Like when we got signed to a major, they insisted on 90-minute sets, and we used to play in 4.5 hour sets, and really being improvisational in our song selection. It was never a set list. It was me deciding what song we were going to play, and I would start the riff, and the band would join in. And it was me just reading the crowd's energy and making it happen. And then you condense that to 90 minutes that we played the same songs every single night.
Right.
And Fred's a little bit superstitious. And so he had to start with Light on Fire, and he had to end with Jenny, which was okay at first. But as the years went by, such and such a song had to follow Light on Fire, and such a song had to be before Jenny, until the entire set list was something that he clung to, and it became just what we play. Like we'd try and make changes, and he'd come in and go, "Yeah, it's a good set list, but let's just change this, and this." And Griff and I would look at each other and go, "He just changed it back to the old set list."
Yeah, man. I mean, that's yeah. Because early on, the fun part about it is like picking up songs you just listened on the car and the radio that day, going,
You
just,
know,
yeah,
like, and plus we would get to a place where the crowd was really frenzied, and I would turn around to him just before the song started, and I'd look at him with a big smile on my face with my back to the audience, and I'd go, "Surprise me." And he'd go, "Fuck you, man," because he knew it meant that he had to do something really outrageous. It meant he had to climb the rafters at Tipitina's or climb the rope at the art bar in Baton Rouge or something insane. But he always did it, and he would say "fuck you," but it meant right.
Yeah.
It meant
He
great,
enjoyed
let's do
that part of it
this.
too. Yeah, I mean,
Oh, we
yeah,
both did. We
yeah,
both did. We both had a ball in the early days, challenging each other. Two guys that had known each other since Fred was 17 and I was 21, and there we were, 10 or so years later, having the rock and roll dream unfold. It was great fun
yeah.
until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't, and at some point, I mean, you guys lasted longer than many do before it kind of, and maybe
Yeah, I
because
was
you
in
guys
for
faced,
15 years.
yeah, maybe because you faced. I mean, I think the first 10 were probably good. It's probably the last 5 that things started to get fucked up. I would think. Because those early years, I mean, there was a lot
I would
of
say up
years.
until about, I'd say it was pretty cool up until about 98.
Right.
Started to kind of, things started getting ugly. We had a different manager came in, and it was a bit more of a divisive attitude. Instead of us against the world, it was I, me, mine kind of thing.
Because I remember when we did the record with Barbiero, even at that point, like everybody's songs mattered. Barbiero just went through and listened to everybody's songs, and he picked a bunch
That
of
was
songs.
him, though. That wasn't the band. That was really
Right.
him. Fred was still very much in control of what was going to get selected, and then Mike, he was a very, very strong-willed producer who'd made some big records, and he called the shots, and
He pushed to play
was
some
very
songs that
challenging.
maybe wouldn't have gotten on a regular cowboy with Tiny People, and
Definitely.
some other things that probably wouldn't have been on it.
And even like the guitar part, like he'd come in and say, "Okay, what's your part on this song?" And I was like, "Well, I was strumming." He goes, "Well, that's not a part. That's just strumming. I want to hear a part."
Right.
So then, like on Griff's song I forget what Griff's song was on that record, "Turn Me On." So I
What a
had
great
like
tune, by the way. I
note
love
work.
that tune, by the way.
It's a really cool song. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that song. And I had a sort of arpeggio Beatles thing on the verses, and then a little, just parts. I had parts all through the song, and that's what he demanded of every song. He was pretty cool like that. Like, he didn't just let you do whatever you're doing live. He would say, "No, we're recording this. You're gonna have a part that's kind of interesting."
Right. You're gonna have to.
And that was fun.
You're gonna have to turn me on, so to speak. Right.
Well, it was a good lesson. It was a lesson that stayed with me. Working with Vance DeGeneres back in the old days, and again over the years as I worked with him, was like that too. Vance very much didn't just write a song; he heard parts. Like when we did the CD a few years ago, One More Trip Around the Sun, Vance wrote like 5 songs for it. So we were going to record them out in L.A. And I called him up and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be recording this album, and since you wrote the songs with me, why don't we record them while I'm out there?" He goes, "I'll set it up." And at the time, I was just going to do another acoustic thing like Heart Renovations. And then he sent me the demos, and I just smiled. I was like, I forgot how Vance hears it. He hears the whole picture.
Right.
So when I told him we were going to do a record, he came up with the drum parts and the bass parts and the keyboard parts and harmonies, and he fleshed out the songs, man. And then so it raised the bar on my end, and I had to let Alex and Carlo and Ray Ganeshaw cut him loose on some rock and roll.
Nice.
Turned out pretty well.
Nice. I was just thinking about that too.
Yeah,
I mean,
the first track on that, we was like, I had worked out the sort of folk riff track on the song "Talking Spanish." It was the first song on that record. And so he played it, but it was the first song, and Bingham was producing, he was getting sounds. And after we'd done it like 3 or 4 times, he says, "Hey, y'all stop playing that song because I don't want it to get stale for the first take. I just need sounds. Play something else." So Carlo and Ray go into this riff by the Cramps, and it's close to the same chord progression as my song. So they can't hear me on the headphones, but I start singing my song to their new riff they're jamming on. And I'm like, oh, this is way cooler. This is rocking, you know? So we end the song, and I said, hey, guys, forget the way that I showed y'all I wanted this played. We're going to play it like that. And Carlo and I looked at each other. Carlo's like, that's an old Cramp song. I'm like, yeah, the chords aren't the same. It's close, but we're going to play that kind of feel. That feel was rocking. And he goes, fuck yeah, let's rock it, you know? And so we ripped that one in one take because that's rock and roll, you know?
Right. And not only that, everybody was feeling it.
Right. Another song on that record that was like, I like the moment in the studio, as you know, I like it to be spontaneous. I like an accident to happen. So I had this song, Driving to Nashville, that I'd written with my friend Tom Levy. And I heard it as Alex and John Herbert, Alex on guitar and John Herbert on harmonica, trading solos. And it would first be 8 bars each, and then 4 bars each, and then 2 bars each, until they're playing on top of each other. And at the end of the song, I had this melody that Alex said sounded very much like a 70s guitar riff. And I was like, awesome, I'm from the 70s, this is good. And that I have them playing like a harmony line, like a Dickie Betts harmony line on the way out. And so I didn't tell them this until we got in the studio. They didn't know they were going to be trading solos. They didn't know they had a part to learn.
Right.
So they both looked at me like, what the fuck, man? We're going to be cutting this song in like 10 minutes. I'm like, yeah, they'll just work it out. So the first take, they stepped all over each other's solos, and the second take, John came in at the wrong time, and the third take, Alex came in at the wrong time. And by now, in between takes, they're looking at me and they're just fucking pissed off, man. The fuck were you thinking, man? You could have given us a little heads up on this shit, you know? They're like pissed at me. And then we cut it. And because they were so pissed, they cut a track that just has teeth. And right up until the end, they got the riff on the out, and they were done. And I was like, and that's why I didn't tell you all about it beforehand.
Right. I wanted that. Right.
I had 2 great players back on their heels and pissed off at me that they were back on their heels because you want to put your best face forward in the studio. And eventually they put their best face forward. That song's smoking. It's probably the best rock and roll I ever recorded.
No shit. I got to go find that one then. I didn't... I haven't listened to music, new music, in about 10 years, you know.
You have a turntable? You don't have a turntable?
I do have a turntable, yes. In fact,
I'll bring it over
next
time I come by.
I'm trying to remember if I have a version of Heart Renovation. No, I don't have a vinyl from that because you cut that when I was out of town.
Yeah, I didn't put that on vinyl.
Gotcha.
But I have One More Trip Around the Sun on vinyl, and the last one, A Song of a Story, I'm a Ghost, and now Jet Black and Jealous.
I'm putting Detective Dillard on Mars, by the way. I
like it.
I got some lines for Detective Dillard.
I had a feeling that Detective Dillard wasn't done.
He's not done.
It's just a feeling.
He's not done. In case anybody's wondering what the fuck I'm talking about, I got a little scene that I've been playing with my little software that I got going on. Been trying to show it off. Finally figured out how to make some of it work. And yesterday I wrote up a quick little script, and Detective Dillard has a part in it. He's integral to the story. So we're going to record some lines later today. And hopefully by the end of the week, guys, you'll get to see our short little video, and it won't look ridiculous. It'll be fun.
Yeah, well, you know, and my acting skills continue to grow. I auditioned yesterday for a new TV show that's in town, and the part was Angry White Man. And I told my brother's working on the show. I texted him and said they should have caught me in my 30s.
Right.
I was way angrier in my 30s than I am now.
So Angry White Man, huh? So you're doing the Falling Down. Is it a Falling Down remake, or is it just...
It's a hey, you kids, get off my lawn moment.
Nice. So you're going to do like Clint Eastwood in that Gran Torino movie, right? You're going to be like him. What's wrong with you people? Kind of, you know.
That's a great movie.
It is.
That's a really great movie.
Dude.
You know, I tried to watch his movie Mule.
Yeah.
Did you see that one?
I did.
It lost me.
Yeah.
Because I got it at first that, okay, this old guy drives into this garage and there's these guys with shotguns and he makes a lot of money, so he probably knows it's drugs, but he doesn't ask questions. And then he likes the money and makes a couple more runs. Now, by this time, you know you're running drugs. And then it's the big run, and that's the one he decides to take a look at. And I'm like, the fuck do you care now?
Right.
It's your 6th trip. You know you're running drugs. Don't tell me you don't know you're running drugs. And then he opens it up and he looks surprised. Jesus Christ. I'm like, Did you think you were transporting children illegally? What, it lost me. It probably turned out great. I love Clint Eastwood as a director. I think he makes great movies. But I thought that was,
I'm trying to figure out because I do remember seeing it, and now that you mention it, because I felt like when you were just telling that story that he knew he was running drugs the whole time, but you're right that there is that spot about where that moment where he turns
when he pulls over on the
and he
highway,
looks,
the cop
right.
walks up with the, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That
And he
is
looks
confusing. Because I felt like he knew
Yeah.
that he was. Maybe he knew he was doing drug. He knew he was doing something
Well,
illegal. Maybe he didn't know it was drugs.
come
Maybe
on.
that's the whole point. But no, he knew he was doing something illegal. He's making too much money.
Come on, man. How stupid are you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You're meeting some, what do they call, you're meeting some Latin guys with tattoos and M16s in their hands or Uzis, and they're telling you not to fucking look and not to fucking talk to anybody, and they're cursing at you and threatening your life, and then they give you $40,000 at the end of it. You're probably not running stuffed animals.
I'll be honest. Clint Eastwood is such an enigma as far as like he's one of the few guys left in Hollywood who are making stories like about people, like characters. There's
But he's
not
an
a lot of-
old-time director. His idol was John Huston.
right?
And John Huston made some great movies. They made a great movie together. The movie White Hunter, Black Heart.
No, I never saw that.
Have you ever seen?
Uh-uh.
See that movie? It's about the making of the film The African Queen, wherein John Huston took him to Africa to shoot instead of shooting it in the studio because he wanted to go on safari and kill an elephant. So he was inconveniencing the actors and the crew just because he wanted the studio to pay for his safari.
That's great.
And he was a very dramatic fellow, and he's a great actor and a great director, and Clint adored him, and he was his mentor as a director. And there's just a few things about Clint that are very interesting, like he was on Rawhide, the television show in the 50s, and he said he always, he played Rowdy Yates, and he said they would get the horses calm before the scene, and then somebody would hit the clapboard and they would yell action, and the horses would get all jittery and take a few seconds to calm down again. So he thought to himself, well, if it does that to the horses, it must do that to the actors. So when he started making movies, he did away with the slate and the call, the big giant action. He didn't do any of that. He just turns to the actor and he says, whenever you're ready. And then they just do their bit. And when it's over, he just goes, you finished? And then that's it. That's all you get. Right. And I know this about him for like all of his career. I think it's a fascinating thing. And I was doing that show, Your Honor, with Bryan Cranston. And the actress who was playing the court stenographer was an Irish actress, as it turns out. Had a great accent. I didn't know she was Irish until she spoke backstage. And she had been in Gran Torino. And I was like, you were great in Gran Torino. And he goes, oh my God, that was one of my first movies. And it was Clint Eastwood. And I was so nervous. And I didn't know. I said, he doesn't call action. She goes, I didn't know. Apparently everyone else knew and I didn't know. So I'm the first scene of the day and I'm standing behind this wall waiting to walk in the house, and we're standing there waiting for someone to call action, and Vince pokes his head around and goes, we're waiting on you. And then, because I finished my lines and nobody said anything, nobody called cut, so I just kept talking. And then Clint said, are you finished? And I was like, yeah, I was finished a while back.
The actors love him, though, right? I mean, they're able to really express, and they know that that's what he's going for. He's not one of those guys.
I think that's what he's going for.
Yeah, because he's not one of those.
He creates an intimate moment.
Right. They talked about it, like, they have these guys who are worried about the set and everything that's in camera and all of this stuff like that is the most important thing. For him, none of that shit matters. It's all about the character. He tries to get as much as he can. He's trying to tell a story, but he's not going to hold fucking shit up to.
Well, there's a great. He likes to get stuff in one take. He's famous for that too.
Yes.
And there's a great story about filming the movie Bird about Charlie Parker with Forrest Whitaker, and the scene was very dark. Bird was alone in his apartment and he was shooting heroin, and it was a really sad scene. And so Clint had it really dimly lit, and they shoot the scene, and the director of photography walks over to Clint and he leans in and whispers, "It's pretty dark. I don't know if we got him." And Clint said, "Great, moving on." And in the movie, he's really, it's dark in that scene, but it's also sort of right because it's so point. Sad. He has totally surrendered to his addiction alone in his apartment, and his genius is seeping out of him.
Right.
and you
Even
don't
if it's
need
just a little
to see
silhouette.
detail
Right.
of them.
No, no.
Of course, Forrest Whitaker's a great actor, and you can feel it rolling off of him too.
Right.
So anyway, I love that about his filmmaking. It's that bit of spontaneity that I like to keep in my own records. I like to not over rehearse for my records. I like to let a musician be a musician. If I've got a guitar player that I admire coming in and he turns to me and says, "What do you want me to play?" I say, "I'll play what I want played. I want you to play what you would play, and that'll be cool.
And that'll be cool. I was just thinking about
I'll
Eastwood
play
too.
3 or 4 tracks of what I want played."
He's the one guy though that when the studio people start to give him a hard time, he's like, "Fuck you." He can actually shoo him off.
All right. Well, yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm
He's fine
happy
at-
with that shot. Right. He's like, I'm fine with that shot. If they start giving him a hard time, he's not the guy. He's not the director who's got to worry about is he going to lose his job because he didn't get this shot the way that the
No,
studio
because
needs.
since the '60s, since his spaghetti westerns in 1968, he makes all of his movies from El Paso Productions, and that's his company.
God, so he's just
So-
like, I'm in charge. He gets the financing.
He is the boss.
Yeah.
He's George Lucas without the special effects. Hey, somebody just wrote, George Lucas ain't no Clint Eastwood.
Definitely not an actor's director. No, I hear the same thing. Lucas was always what was it? What was the thing? It was faster and because they made jokes about it. All of them, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, and Mark Hamill were all making jokes after they did the first one because he would always go faster and with more intensity, faster and with more intensity. He said they would do a take and every time they would finish, he'd go, "That was great, faster with more intensity," and so they'd do it again, and to the point where it's like, is that fast enough? And it's like, and then the words that he would use, he's got this Shakespearean language, and so actors are always like, how do you, this is not even words that a human says. Yes, you read them, but a human wouldn't say words like this. And he's, that's kind of one of the issues with the prologue series where he didn't have help with the writing. He's saying things that actually sound great if you're, reading it, but when you
Right.
speak it, it's like people don't talk this way, and and I guess he
No,
figured,
I'm now I'm at the end of Return of the Jedi, and the Mandalorian is far more like those 3 movies
Right.
than any of the other Star Wars.
Absolutely, and that was the plan. That's what Favreau wanted to do.
He did it. He did it really well.
And the funny thing
It's
is,
like
is
an
that
old West.
when they went and they decided that it's so weird, right? Because for one thing, they thought that they were going to redesign Star Wars for a new generation of people, right? And that was the whole point. But I think when people start trying to like fit it into something new, then you're changing what it was. So just give people what it was, and you probably would have had more success with those movies that come after that you haven't watched yet. I mean, J.J. Abrams gave him a little too much with the first movie because it's the same fucking plot as the fourth movie, pretty much. They got a big destroyer
Right.
base and they're going to destroy everything. And it would have been good to take the story someplace else, but you keep them in the same place. You don't change the fucking world that much. They changed the rules about the way things worked and everything. And at the end, I think they really made some big mistakes. Whereas if they'd have kept it simple, like The Mandalorian, and just give us some more adventures in that place that we like, they would have had more success.
Yeah.
Because they almost killed the fucking franchise. Mandalorian saved it. Like, the Star Wars ain't the industry that it was, or the franchise that it was before Disney bought it, as far as money goes.
No. Well, I mean, that's not Star Wars' fault entirely. I mean, the business has just changed.
It's partially
Especially
business.
now.
And the other thing about Star Wars is it never took off in China. And these days, you kind of have to have the Chinese box office to really put you over the top.
Well, that's funny you should bring that up, Mikey, because I was thinking that we should launch another cup of coffee in China. Going to take some negotiations with the communist government, but I think they would dig us.
Well, we got nothing to
Chinese.
lose. I can tell you that. Especially if I start working on this fancy VFX stuff, then you got tech stuff. From what I understand,
Well, they love tech stuff.
that's what I hear. I mean, I hate
Oh,
this.
yeah.
What did George Clooney say? It's not racist. It's stereotyping. It's difference. There's a difference. What? I'm just saying.
Clooney's awesome.
Yes, he did try to turn Star Trek into Star Wars. I was actually watching that movie last night, Sean, and I actually enjoy that Star Trek. I'm sorry. I think the actors help me, though. I like Zachary Quinto. I like Chris Pine.
Yeah,
think they have
I
a
like
ton of
that Star
charm.
Trek actor itself. Yeah.
I know it wasn't the intellectual story that Star Trek really was all about, and it was a different thing. And you're right. I mean, honestly, why make it Star Trek? They could have made a different story. and had that Star Wars type feel. So I get that argument, but I enjoyed the movie. I have to admit, I watched it again yesterday. I've seen it about 4 times, and I really
like it
love
too.
at the end when they start, acting like themselves, kind of, and Spock starts doing the things. Well, this only has a 92 point whatever percent chance of success, whatever, all that stuff where they sort of fell into their tropes from the show was kind of fun for me. It gave me that hoorah moment. Although I will say, there are a lot of lens flares. He's always gotten a lot of shit on that movie because there's fucking lens flares everywhere. And watching it yesterday, I was trying to make sense of it because I was thinking, is it just outside that they do the lens flares, like when they're shooting outside the ship? Because every time they're in space and outside, there's fucking lens flares going everywhere. But then I saw some inside too, like when the action starts to happen, and suddenly they got some inside in the hallways and stuff. And I'm like, all right, so it's not just when they're outside. Because, I mean, at least then it would have been like, well, this is how we're representing space. There'll be lights everywhere. It's weird, lens flares. It's not exactly what happened, so. But he does get a lot of grief about the lens flares. Isn't that funny? I still see people, talk about. And then apparently one time he gave an interview.
I have to be honest and say I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, it's a J.J. Abrams thing, right?
What's a lens flare?
Lens flare? Oh, it's when the camera goes across a light and that thing goes across.
I couldn't understand you because of your accent.
I'm sorry. Lens flare, yes. So,
just like an hour later.
Like a now later, right? Like we used to call them now laters instead of now and laters. We used to call them now laters. And I thought it was like a person's name, like Nehemiah or something like that. Now later. So I didn't realize it.
That's just lazy. It's an hour later. You're leaving out a whole word.
I didn't. People around me said it. I didn't know. That's what I'm telling you. I didn't know what it was. I was a kid, and they just called it that, and I thought it was some guy's name who made him up. Like, this guy Nolater is a good guy. I like these things.
It's wrong that people do that to kids. It's just wrong that people do that to kids.
It's like going to Calliope.
Fill their head. Fill their head with nonsense.
If you go to Calliope here and you ever see the word Calliope, you're gonna be like, well, that's Calliope. You're going to be out of town someplace going, yeah, well, that's Calliope. And you're going to wonder, is that a sausage or what? Is that Calliope? Is that a sausage or is it a bread? What is it? What is a Calliope? So,
what is a Calliope anyway?
Right, exactly. Exactly. Yep, see? Shmoo. You're about to see. She says it's totally now laters. It's not now and laters.
I will point out that Shmoo is young and impressionable, and she's going along with you.
She's saying they're gross. They're not gross. They're delicious.
They're not.
They used to be.
They're delicious when you were 12.
Yeah, when I was 12.
Maybe when you were even 20.
I don't remember having much. I remember they used to get old and the paper would stick to them and you couldn't get the fucking paper off and you'd be chewing on them and I was like,
and you actually wound up putting the paper in your mouth.
Yeah, you didn't care. It was like, yeah, it was like,
there. The paper's going to come off.
It's going to come off. I'll spit it off separate.
I'll spit it off, and if I don't, I'll grab it out. Who cares?
Whatever.
It can't be any worse for me than the candy.
Last night I was making some grits, and I felt like eating grits and eggs for dinner last night. And I noticed in the grit thing there was some bugs, and I was thinking, well, it's just extra protein. I want look. I can't go there. I know I did throw the grits away, but I'm telling you, I thought about it for a few minutes. I'm going to boil it. I mean, it's just protein, right?
No. It's protein. It's just, well, you know what? That's so funny you say that, though. I saw a story on the news yesterday. I don't know where she is, but some lady is selling chocolate-covered cicadas because all the cicadas are everywhere.
Right. Yeah.
So and people are buying them. It's just they're literally flying off the stacks, And I just thought, I don't want to eat a bug. I don't care if he's got chocolate on him. I don't want to eat a bug. And then she sampled one and she makes a big smile and she goes, it's kind of like a chocolate covered potato chip. They're kind of crunchy. And she takes a bite and just for like a millisecond, you can see her go, she kind of like made a face like I just bit into a bug. But then that smile came back right quick, And I was thinking like, you still thought you were eating a bug. That's what she thought us bit into.
My wife was telling me about it, and when we moved to Nashville, apparently every 20 years there's this big cicada fucking thing, right? And when we first got to
every
Nashville...
17 years.
17. So when we first got there was one. And it was freaked us out, because we're first fucking summer in Nashville, and there's these... You couldn't go outside your house. Like, right. It was like, no, I'm not going... And my wife, oh my God, trying to get... You can imagine trying to get your wife into the car. It was like, nope, this ain't happening. 3 steps outside and back inside doing this. Ah! So
Yeah.
anyway, it went on for about 3 or 4 days. But how long is this one up there going on now? Is it still happening, or did it pass
I
through?
think it's I think it's like a week-long event or something. I don't know.
Wow.
They're
I don't
supposed to
remember
be
it being
everywhere.
too long, but it was like, yeah, it could have been a week. It's been a long time.
I remember my sister Sandy going on a trip when she was young and bringing back chocolate-covered ants or some kind of bugs. And I didn't even like the idea then. I didn't even, I like chocolate as a little boy, but I did not then and will not now eat a bug.
Wait a second. Are you telling me, Sean, that calliope is a? He's trying to tell us here that that pronunciation is correct. Calliope. He looked it up in the dictionary.
Well, he probably looked in the wrong dictionary.
Yeah, Sean. I don't know, man. You're gonna have to give us proof of that.
Tell him to look in a musical dictionary.
That's too funny. Chocolate covered cicadas and grasshoppers since I was a kid. Been seeing, not eating. Right. I understand.
Yes. Yeah, I don't mind seeing. I don't mind looking. I'll look at all kinds of things, and if it's not too gross. But eating a bug, that would have to be some really tasty chocolate, man.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you. Just the idea. Can you imagine like just the legs and stuff? Just I guess that's too.
Well, I can is the problem, and I don't want to.
I know it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah, too
Speaking
much.
of Eastwood movies, right? Did you ever see Million Dollar Baby?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right. What a great, great movie, right?
Yeah,
Just-
she was great.
She was great, right? Just
And
that
Morgan
character,
Freeman.
Morgan
Clint
Freeman.
Eastwood and Morgan Freeman together, they did have great chemistry. Morgan Freeman was also in Unforgiven with him,
Yes,
and they were just great together. I would love to see them do more movies together.
I started kind of writing up a little essay on the Unforgiven, just sort of thinking about it a little bit. I mean, that's basically a story. Let's see, silk from. They were disgusting. I imagine so. But you eat crawfish, you're right, and they're gross if you think about it. They're a little.
You
different.
know, and if we're being totally honest here on another cup of coffee, I don't eat boiled crawfish. I don't eat boiled shrimp. I don't eat anything I have to touch with my hands to eat. Now, if somebody will put it in an etouffee, I'll eat the shit out of it. But
But you're not peeling them and going through all of that.
it's a lot of work, man, for just a little bit of meat. I know my friend Nunu, there's nothing greater in the world except for Bob Dylan than eating crawfish. But yeah, it's a lot of work. And then your hands smell, and maybe you get a little cut on your
And
guitar
you got to get the
finger.
poopy part out because the poopy part that goes all you got to get
Yeah.
that part out. I mean,
I know a lot of people don't bother with the poopy part.
I got to
don't
get the
know.
poopy part out. I'm talking
You
about
gotta get
eating
the
bugs, but I still got to get the poopy line out.
Come on,
I know.
you know.
Because
don't
you
wanna
know
pick
that's
up-
poop.
I don't have a dog because I don't want to pick up his shit. I'm not eating. I'm not eating a crawfish shit, no matter how small it is.
Right. Yeah. They could tell me that it's the best thing that'll make you live an extra 100 years. I'm still not eating crawfish poop.
Yeah, who wants to live 100 years?
Yeah. Especially if you
Awesome.
keep feeling, I mean, imagine you could live forever, but your body keeps breaking down the way that it's breaking. So,
Yeah, it would be a drag, man.
Yeah, right. You're like 70 sucks, man. I'm walking around. Yeah, I'm gonna be 70 for the next 1,000 years. What? This sucks. If you're doing that, you got to be. I was trying to walk like an old man. Dum da da.
You looked it. It was good. It was good. It was good desk acting.
Lewis and me have all done it at Tunes. Yeah, mud bugs. Yes, sir. And that's they call
Of
them
course, yeah.
mud
Well,
bugs.
Tunes is an awesome barbecue place up in Chicago on the north side near Wrigley, owned by my friend Danny Beck, and he worked at House of Blues in New Orleans for a long time
No
and
shit.
got the crawfish thing down. So he does a crawfish boil up in Chicago every year, and he eats really good. They bring him up, and he boils them up just like they're supposed to be, man.
Right. So they actually get to
And-
see, hey, this tastes good. Who
Oh
knew?
yeah. And that's not the case everywhere. Like when Cowboy Mouth was playing all over the place, we used to play at this place in Dewey Beach, the Bottle and Cork, and it was just a beach club, all the sort of East Coast kids, that go to college and stuff would go, and we did well every summer, so we always went. And the owner loved us, and so like the third or fourth year, he goes, I'm going to have a crawfish boil for y'all when you come. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Have a crawfish boil on the beach is fantastic, And we get there, he had gotten the crawfish boiled in New Orleans, flown up to Maryland, and then boiled them again. So they were twice boiled crawfish. They were as rubbery as if they were toys.
Yes, yes. I hate the rubbery crawfish. That's that's a little bit.
Well, you can't boil them twice.
No, well,
You can't boil them twice.
yeah,
He was well intentioned. He meant well.
yeah.
But you can't boil crawfish twice.
No, that's like getting
It
them
takes away
frozen.
any flavor.
Yeah, it's like getting them frozen and trying to deal with them that way.
Well, it's not even as good as getting them frozen because you've not only boiled any flavor out of them that was there on the original boil, but you've turned them into little rubber toys. You're peeling it, and there's this little white piece of rubber that you can throw in your mouth and just chew on. Like if you're trying to quit cigarettes, it's great. You got this little thing that's not going to break up.
So Mark, I was kind of I started to have this idea of because me and Paul do talk about movies often, and so I was trying to write my thoughts up, and Unforgiven was one of the stories that I started to look. I watched it again, and I'm probably gonna watch it one more time. And I just started looking a little bit closer at the scenes and what they're doing and why they're doing the scenes that they're doing. Yes, at the Bottle and Cork. You remember that place, the Bottle and Cork?
Oh, that's what I was just talking about. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that's where you were doing it. I'm sorry, they got me. Shmoo said something that got me confused. Anyway, so during the Unforgiven, just the fact that they got these two old guys, that are past their prime, trying to do this thing, and then the young guy that comes in. I love his story. He's the young wannabe badass. He wants to be what these men were.
Yeah.
And those men don't want to be that anymore, not to mention they're too old to be that anyway, and so neither one of them wanted to kill a man again. I love the fact, at the beginning when Clint Eastwood is shooting the handgun, he can't quite hit and he goes and gets the fucking shotgun just to back down a bit. It's an old man looking at it,
There's some great lines in that movie, the kid who thinks he's tough kills somebody for the first time, and he's scared, and he says to Clint Eastwood, "They had it coming, right?" And Clint Eastwood goes, "We all got it coming."
Right. That's one of my favorite lines. I was going to mention that line because he says, "We all got it coming." And he goes, "Man, that's really something." And he goes, "Yeah, killing the man is something. You take away everything he is and everything he's ever going to be." And
that's a great line, too.
Yeah, it's the one
that one. And my favorite one is "Man's got to know his limitations."
Yeah. and I mean, that movie to me is about, growing old, but also just, the young people kind of coming in, figuring out that side of it too, but it's, I had some more, I don't have my notes in front of me, I did that on Friday, so maybe I'll get that stuff together and I'll put together a little something on the side, and maybe one day me and...
Speaking of the coming week, Wednesday, we should let the folks know that our Wednesday guest will be Caleb Gilliott from the 90s gold record-selling band Dead-Eye Dick, who has made his living for the last probably 15, 20 years in the film business. He was on NCIS for 7 years and is off to new pastures, as all the people in NCIS are. And we're going to talk to him about his adventures in music and his adventures in film. And he's a good guy. I'm looking forward to it. He's one of my favorite people to write songs with and to... We were friends in the early days before either band took off, Mouth or Dead-Eye Dick. And we used to go to the open mic nights. And we sort of made it a point of pride to bring a new song to play for each other, to keep each other sharp. Nice. It was fun. Real healthy competition, real respectful one, We were both fans of each other's work.
It's when I was... probably about 20, 21, I had my own band thing going. I mean, I always sort of had my own band. Actually, at that time, I wouldn't call it a band. I had a drummer that I worked out with, and I would just play the bass part. So we'd basically record stuff. I'd add a bass part, and it was, But anyway, I'd gotten pulled into this band by one of the guys that worked at my bank. We were just talking one day or whatever, and he mentioned something, and he was a young guy. And so I go to their rehearsal, whatever like that, and I'm Yeah, sure. I'd love to come and play. And they was doing something different than what I was doing, but it was okay. I learned the parts they wanted me to play, and we went and played a few gigs. But one of the first gigs we went and played was over in West Bank, and Caleb's band. I don't even know. It wasn't Dead Eye Dick, but it was before he joined.
It was Jet Rink and the Solar Skates, right?
Probably, yeah. I don't remember exactly, but he had New Age Girl at that point already before even Dead Eye Dick. He had the song
Really?
already.
Wow.
Well, I don't think it was
that,
exactly New Age Girl, but there were parts of it. You could tell.
We'll have to ask him on Wednesday.
Yes. Like I said, I don't remember if it was the whole song or if it was just the chorus or whatever that he had. But I do remember hearing that, and his voice blew me away. And I remember thinking, wow, they do have talented people in New Orleans, because I didn't know at the time. I was young, and I hadn't really been out in the scene.
He not only had a great rock voice, he had such control over it.
Yeah, he could sing whatever the fuck he wanted, and he had he had a high voice, which is something I always wanted to be able to have. And
same here. I was so envious of him and Ski with the damn high voices.
Yes, they both have those fucking high voices.
Damn them with their high voices.
I know. Luckily, high voices are out of chic nowadays. If you listen to anything on the radio,
Really?
they've been out of chic for a while for men.
My time is here.
Men are supposed to sing in their range, and they just bring in, Mariah Carey type girls to sing in that stuff. If you're in pop music, that is.
Right.
In our field, who knows?
Well, if it ever swings back to where they're looking at old people, I'm in.
I know, right? The sad thing is they've never looked at old people for music.
No.
No. It's never been you had to already have something going on. They certainly weren't going to find. Remember that guy who won American Idol? He was like 40-something years old. They were like, it doesn't even count. Yeah, you're not even going to. It's like, nah. Mary Moon, yes. Septuagenarians, yes. It will outlive all the I don't think we're quite septuagenarians yet.
That's the line from the song.
Oh.
That's the lyric.
I see. I was just thinking about octogenarians
He's a
and stuff.
vegetarian. Will outlive all the
Septuagenarians. See, I didn't even know the words. Thank you. Thank you, Shmoo, for helping me out, because if I'd have said that shit on Wednesday, I'd have looked like an asshole in front of our new guest.
There you go. See, you don't want to do that.
No, she is going to be the producer. I think at some point, if we ever start making money,
I think we're headed that way.
She'll be the producer.
Yeah.
One day we'll be. So, what do you guys? Anybody want to have anything they want to talk about? I was supposed to again. I spent the whole weekend making my film scene. I wrote a script. It's not even a script. It's fucking 2 pages. It's a fucking scene. But anyway, we do plan on at some point being able to play some old music and talk about it. And we're gonna pick. And we're going to pick songs that both he and I have, mostly Paul's songs, but there's a few songs I wrote with that he helped me with that we might pick. Who knows? But we're going to go through them, and we'll talk a little bit about, who played on.
Well, I should get to pick your songs, too. That's fair enough, though. I should get to pick songs of yours as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll have
you might have worked on. Let's see. Song that's sticking in my head like nobody's business. You and Sanchez, Shmoo. You and Sanchez. He obviously knew what the fuck you were talking about, so that tells you everything you need to know. Right
there. I constantly, Allison's tickled when I'll be singing something, and she'll just look at me. It's like on the radio, whatever's on the radio. She's like, "How do you know the words?" Like, I heard it 20 years ago. There they are.
Hey, any of you guys like Ray? I think he's excited about us doing some of the music stuff, so we have to totally get that musical thing going.
Okay, that'll be our Monday things.
Yes, and we should talk about it a little bit. Just make sure that we're on the same page on what record. I guess we're going to start with Loose Parts. We talked about that.
Doesn't matter. We just pick a song, one song.
We could try it right now. I wonder if I have it on this. Oh, I don't have the songs on this album.
Oh boy, you're going to try it live?
Yeah, it's probably a bad idea. Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was actually thinking about it.
Yeah, sure. Why
in
not?
all honesty, that's
everything's been working perfectly today. We haven't frozen. We haven't bumped offline. We started on time. We should absolutely try something we've never done before.
Oh, by the way, guys, we started on time today, and where the fuck were you guys? Nobody was there, so why would we start on time anymore?
Yeah, we won't be doing that anymore.
No,
there'll be no more starting on time.
Yeah, Sean, I can't remember my lyrics either. We've talked about this. That's what these things are for. They're called iPads, and you can put your lyrics on them.
I remember every lyric.
I know.
My songs and everybody else's songs. I didn't even write my lyrics down until I left Cowboy Mouth, and I was playing with new musicians, and they were like, "Do you have lyrics for these so we can sing harmony?" And I was like, that's a good idea. I should write the lyrics down. And at that point, I had written like a song. Had them all in my head.
You know what kills me about that too is like, because all right, when you're writing a song, you try ideas, right? You're constantly trying ideas, and so that kind of fucks with me too because your mind's already like made one connection that you've thrown aside. You're like, I don't like that, I don't like that, I don't like that. Oh, this is the one. This is the one I'm keeping. I like this one, and maybe there's even one that's close. It's like either this one or this one. I'm taking this one. But for you, when you get to those, you remember them.
Yeah, I don't have those moments.
No.
Like, Alex is the same way. Alex saves song ideas. He told me once that it might take him a year to write a song. He saves ideas. For me, I'm riding my bike or walking down the streets and I start singing a song. I'm going, this is a cool little song, Wonder who wrote this. And then I'll realize, oh, nobody yet. It's me. And so it starts as a song in my head. I can hear the instruments, I can hear the melody and the lyrics. And then I just follow the melody and the lyrics to their logical conclusion, and the song's over.
And then so
I don't really have those. There might be a part where I go, yeah, that chord's not quite right. I might change a chord or the.
But I've seen you with the lyrics.
But
I've seen you with the lyrics, kind of playing around with a couple different ideas, where you're like, and suddenly something comes to you, and you're like, it's better. It's better this way, or something, or maybe you get a few lines down.
Working on your song. Yeah.
Oh, we're
doing your song, right?
Oh, they said, why don't we start with another cup of coffee? We could start with another cup of coffee as the first song that we're listening to. Isn't that on?
Who said that?
Amy.
Whose comment was it?
Amy Beer.
Oh, she makes a fine point. I mean, it's the name of the show.
Why not? We'll start. All right, Amy, you win. Monday we'll start with that, and maybe we will do a few songs from the first confidential, not confidential. I'm so sorry, Jet Black and Jealous, because you've done that. Funny thing is, me and Paul have filmed him talking about Jet Black and Jealous 5 times. Then we were trying to originally we were trying to do a thing where we would film him. He would talk about his stories, and we were going to put those up on YouTube. And we would film him and send him to his brother, and his brother would give us, criticism. And so we'd come back and go, all right, well, let's give it another shot. Let's try this. And eventually it was, fuck this. Let's just go in there and talk about shit.
It's like I posted on the internet today. If you haven't seen this yet, we talk about music. We talk about really nothing. It's like Seinfeld, but with 2 old musicians instead of a comic.
Right. And we talk about the stuff that bothers us as old people. Today, Adam was having problems with his printer, by the way, which is, I get a panicky phone call at 8 a.m. He needs to use my printer because he can't figure out why his printer's not working. And he comes over and he's frazzled. And, of course, we can't get my printer to work. I don't have any paper. I haven't used my printer in probably 8 or 9 years. I've used it to scan, but I haven't had to print anything, and as long as I can remember. So I don't have any ink.
I didn't even know people did that.
Print?
That's actually one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite moments in that commercial. I think it's an insurance company where he's talking about you turn into your parents, and he goes, if you printed out directions to get here, you're in the right place.
That's hilarious. I think he had to print out something that he had to have signed today or something. So, I
mean, who even does that anymore? Like, everybody signs on their iPads.
I know.
And shit. It's so weird.
I felt bad for him, but he's working for production. He's like actually working for locations. So
good for him.
Yeah, he's on that Reese Witherspoon thing, and he actually loves this job because he used to be the guy who would take the orders from the guy he is now. Now he's the guy who gives those orders to the other guy.
Nice. He likes giving orders too.
Oh, he's a big fan of giving orders.
Doesn't?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, who doesn't like giving orders? Come on. Yeah.
And he's been getting these attaboys. Adam needs a steady diet of attaboys to get through the day, and so he keeps getting his attaboys.
Well, that's also a very nice thing if you can get somebody who'll give you an attaboy or here or there in the day.
I can't fucking get an attaboy to save my life. I mean, don't give me one just because of that, but it's funny because people expect a certain level of stuff from me, so when I send something out, it has to be at that level, and if it's not, then not only do I not get an attaboy, I get it's not your best work, Mike. I'd like you to add to that statement, present company accepted. You mean exception for the present company?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you definitely, yes, you do give the attaboys. I was thinking more along
And
the lines of
never ask you to remix.
no, you never asked me to remix because once again though that's your as long as I'm trying to think if there might have been maybe a time or two where there was the only thing I could ever think is if maybe there was an instrument or something that you really liked the part and you might be like, I really like that part. Can we showcase that part a little bit more or something like that? You know, I think that's the only kind
But
of stuff.
thankfully, you would do that stuff for me. But you also explained to me, changing one instrument. Somebody that's not experienced in the studio is likely to do this. Hey, that's a really good mix, but could you bring the keyboard part up a little bit? And producer and engineer are going to say, yeah, because you're paying them. But the fact is, that's about an hour and a half to 2 hours of time you just gave away in the studio because you really want the keyboard boosted just a little bit because you think it'll be perfect there as opposed to where they have it. And it's not going to make a damn bit of difference 9 times out of 10. But most people that haven't been in the studio a lot will make you do that. And I didn't have enough experience in my early days. I learned eventually. And when you presented me with mixes, I'd say, great.
To be fair, at that point in my life, I could have used a little bit more experience as well because at that point in my life, yeah, it was another hour or two to make room for the changes that we wanted to do. But as I started to work in television and working with bigger artists and stuff like that, it's just a way of things. So I had to develop tricks and techniques to be able to make those changes without destroying the mix and learn a lot about, So I'm actually to a point now where I can make adjustments like that don't kill the mix and don't take that long. But it's taken me a long time to get there. And for most engineers, it's going to be a problem because turning things up is not the solution. That never really, most of the time, that's not the solution. Sometimes it is, but most of the time, you need to make room for it in more ways than just.
You need to make room. Yeah.
So you have to understand how to make room for the new sofa. You can't just throw the sofa in the room on top of the chair. You got to make fucking room for it. So.
Right.
By
the way, my oldest sister Sandy just joined us, and so she wasn't present earlier when I was talking about the chocolate-covered cicadas. And so I have to get her to verify if it was her that brought home the chocolate-covered bugs when I was a little kid. I seem to remember it being my sister Sandy going on a trip and bringing back chocolate-covered ants or something like that. So
she lived in Wyoming and came out of the second floor of her house regularly. So she's probably the bug
North
eater.
Dakota.
North Dakota.
That was North Dakota.
She's still probably the bug
They
eater.
lived all over the place. Her husband was in the military. They lived all over the place. I'm sure she went someplace where they sold chocolate-covered ants, maybe Texas. People in Texas are crazy.
Don't they do it up there in North Dakota when you come out of your upstairs window onto the ground because you're snowed in from the first floor?
I think she's listening in. So if Sandy, if you can verify that you were the one that brought home the chocolate-covered bugs, that'd be great. If not, I'll stop laying the blame at your door and I'll blame Wheezy. That'd be great.
That'd be great.
Wheezy stuff she can take.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've noticed this or not. Nobody's said anything, but Fats Domino is right behind Paul's head. And the Beatles are actually there too. I don't know what that yellow one is. That a revolver beyond that? Off to the right.
That's Abbey Road.
It's Abbey Road.
The yellow one, and that's Allison bought that at the Abbey Road studio.
Nice.
When we were there. Yeah.
Nice. So that's definitely your inspiration. As you sit there at the piano, you got Fats right in front of you, which is got.
I got Fats and the Beatles and John Prine.
Oh, and look at your iPad with music on it. Look at this.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
A song off of Wasted Lives in Bluegrass.
Yeah, play it for us. Let's see what it sounded like.
I know it's late, but my telephone convinced me to give you a ring. People tell me you've fallen in love, and I've started remembering. There's a photograph of us I have, and we never seem to change. I'm glad to hear that you're doing alright, but I dreamt I slept in your bed last night.
Nice. What do you guys think? So when we come back, when we finally do our live show, I think that we have to take a moment and let you play the. I love it on the piano. I think the feel of that the sound of it is just so different and cool.
It's been really fun to learn. At first, I was just learning like Sinatra, jazz standards kind of things. But then I had a few songs that were in that vein and just needed the chords changed around a little bit. And so I did those. And then I started like, well, hell, I know the chords to this song and that song. I started playing every song I knew. I'm not great, but I can back myself up like I can on guitar. I'll hire Alex to solo.
Not to mention, yeah, but not to, yeah, right. You just get you and Alex playing the melodies, and you don't have to be a virtuoso to play music, right? I mean, being a virtuoso is a type of music, and yes, it's enjoyable to hear people that are virtuosos play, but it's just a type of music. Like Matt Perrine. By the way, your sister said that New Orleans has a children's museum that has them, the chocolate-covered ants or whatever.
I know, but the specific question was it her that brought them home from vacation?
She didn't answer it in either one of the posts, because the second one she said was that was a long time ago. Not sure if they're still there. She never did answer whether she brought them or not. She only...
Well, I'm going to let her off the hook, and I'm going to blame Wheezy. She doesn't watch the show.
Yes, well, I think they just heard you finish playing. Actually, that's why we're getting the applause thing. I bet you.
It's that delayed.
Oh yeah, it winds up being about a minute once it's all said and done. 30 seconds to a minute.
I wonder why.
Just takes time for it to get up on Decode, whatever. YouTube takes its time, and just the way that it is. It usually starts in one place, but by the end of the show, it'll be somewhere else. So an hour in, yeah, you start being pretty far back behind. But one of the things I think is kind of cool is like when I'm watching somebody else's show, you can, like say you come in halfway through the show or whatever like that, it gets to the end of the show, you can easily just watch the beginning of it at that point. You can always just grab and rewind it. And so that's kind of fun. She says it wasn't her. Okay. Don't think it was me.
All right.
So it was Wheezy.
I'm going to blame Wheezy because she doesn't watch the show. She won't know that I'm blaming her.
Nice. So there you go. There she goes. She doesn't think it was her. So, guys, well, that's an hour. And we actually started on time today, so it's actually an hour.
Actually an hour. I'm so impressed with us, although no one was there to see us starting on time.
No, and so is that the whole tree in the forest thing? If we start a YouTube show on time and nobody's there to hear us, did it really start on time?
I think it's definitely an object lesson in why we should not start early.
Yes. We're going to go back. Look, guys, we'll go back to the game. You guys guess how long it's going to... You guys guess how long it's going to take us to come out, and we're going to take our time.
And the person that gets it right on the money gets a free coffee mug sent to him right out of my pantry.
Right out of Paul's. Until his pantry is bare, and his wife goes, "What the fuck happened to all our cups?" That's what we're looking for here. That's the end game.
No, by then we'll have merchandise.
Yes.
You're setting up merchandise. We're going to have another cup of coffee cups.
Another cup of coffee cups. At some point, maybe T-shirts. And then I can even see the Another Cup of Coffee record with Paul playing piano and maybe me playing some guitar. Okay. Who knows? We're going to do the Another Cup of Coffee record.
Who knows?
It's going to be...
Who knows?
It's going to be music that you can go to the coffee shop, put in your headphones, and just relax, read the paper. And have another cup of coffee.
Yes. And have another cup of coffee. All right, we'll see you Wednesday with Caleb Gilliard from Dead-Eye Dick and NCIS New Orleans.
Yes, and thank you guys so much for hanging out with us again today. Thank you guys for showing up. I knew you'd show up at some point. And we'll see them on Wednesday. Let's play some music, why don't we? What do you say? On time works. Yeah, on time. You might have been one of the few. There was 2 people here when we started the damn show, so maybe you were one of the ones who was here. Is the merch up yet? Well, technically... No, but it really is just as easy as us. Just it's pretty.
Well, it could be Shmoo's first job as our producer.
Hey, Shmoo, you want a job? Yeah, we got a job for you already. We're not getting paid. You won't get paid either. But who knows, sweetheart? It might be fun. So, all right. Well, so everybody wins. We're gonna play some music, guys. Here we go.
Yeah, play some music.
was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, I'm staring at her shoulder, but it's not what I see when I hear two fellas fighting in the booth across from me. So I wipe away the ashes from an empty counter seat, and I wished I wasn't homesick, I wish I was asleep. Well, I hold her like a blanket up against my chin, and I need her like I need another pack of chewing gum. Well, we used to be like that, but now we're like this all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind.